Our Fall Classic matchup is set. Welcome to MLB Tonight, presented by Strauss, with a couple of guys who have World Series rings at home. Eric Hosmer, Cliff Floyd, Matt Vasgersian. Welcome, boys. It's going to be fun here.
Yeah, it is.
Let's break it down. Let's get into it.
All right, let's do it.
Are you surprised by this matchup, first of all? Who had this right? Who had Dodgers-Toronto?
I think I think I had the Dodgers. I didn't think I had Toronto.
You were out on a limb with the Dodgers?
Well, I was out on the limb with them. I think the one thing with Toronto, I just feel like Toronto wasn't complete yet. They didn't have enough. They had Vlad and Bo, and if anything should, fail, then you were going to run into a buzzsaw.
Right.
They figured it out. Their supporting cast players stepped up.
For sure.
Big time.
They figured it out quick. Because
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, I felt like Vladdy, the whole contract situation, it wasn't getting worked out. And Vladdy said, this needs to get worked out before the season goes. And from that point on, we started hearing about the supporting cast. They were running away with the East. And before you know it, they're in the World Series.
We got a packed hour here, folks. We're going to get into Game 7, how the Blue Jays got to the World Series, that epic battle between the Jays and the Seattle Mariners. We talk a lot about Shohei Ohtani, how to deal with him. But let's start the conversation with Vlad Guerrero, because there's a superstar in each side of this matchup. Vlad has been at his best in this postseason, and he's been everything that they paid for when they re-upped that deal with him. Cliff, let's talk about his approach and why he's clicking on such a high level right now.
So when you start watching him last year, the one thing I loved was he wasn't a one-dimensional hitter, right?
Not at all.
He was a guy that drove the ball to right center, but it wasn't just base hits. I think when you look at what he did in 24, to me, Matty, it was more of, look at the spray chart. Look at side by side, 24 and 25. There's no homers to right field. He has some knocks. And if you're any manager, you'll take the base for the fact that, you know what, I'll bridge you to left, I'll bridge you to center, I'll bridge you to right. But I just put this stat down. In 2024, he hit 18 non-pull homers, a center, the right center, and right. And in 2025, he had 8. So it just lets you know how things change. It might be the pitching. Yeah, you're at the top of everything you do in this league, right? This is the best of the best. So you're not going to get pitched to the same. They're going to try to figure out how to get you out or get you off of what your slug is. And I think he made that adjustment in the postseason. The right time to make it. The postseason, you see where he's at, 6 homers, and he's at the top of his game.
Well, that's exactly it. You're trying to get Vladdy off what his approach is. And when Vladdy's locked in, he's going to right center because he's covering that bat. The barrel is covering all in the hitting zone. And Vladdy's a guy that there's really no holes in his game. There's really no holes on how you attack him. If there is, it's a small window. So we're going to get into this a little bit now on how I think the Dodgers are at least going to attack Vladdy from the right side.
Okay.
And it's going to remind you of someone on the Dodgers lineup. But first of all, let's just look at Vladdy throughout the postseason. And like, again, he is hitting everything. He's a hitter first, and we're seeing the slug come off of it. Vladdy, right now, there's really not much you can do. There's not many holes. But I think what the Dodgers are going to do, having some familiarity in the NL West, I think they're going to go right-on-right change-ups for Vladdy on that down and in, keep it down. That one was a backdoor right there. And that's why, because the early series, the NLDS, watch how Philly attacked Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
Change-ups left on left. And what did that do? That got Shohei in a little bit of a funk. He started missing some of the heaters, the sinkers in that he usually hits. Now, I think that's something that the Dodgers are going to look at and understand from their righties. Yamamoto, Sasaki, the high leverage situations. There can be a little hole where we get Vladdy. You don't want to miss, because if you miss over the plate, that's trouble. And then here's Blake Snell. He's probably going to go game 1. Vladdy and Blake Snell, they've had a lot of matchups in the AL East off each other. But Blake Snell has found this changeup, Matty, and especially throughout this postseason run. We saw it here against Philly. He threw it to Trey Turner a bunch. So I think they have familiarity with each other, but this is going to be a different matchup because Blake's got a different weapon. And Cliff, we've been seeing him throw that changeup. He's been pulling the string on it, man, and it's nasty.
That's good insight. I love that breakdown. And let me ask you this as a big picture follow-up here. You got a contact-oriented lineup, right? The Jays don't strike out. Strikeout staff. Yeah. Anybody in that rotation for the Dodgers is capable of posting double-digit strikeouts. Are we going to see one side versus the other? Like, what's going to win in a World Series? The team that doesn't strike out or the staff that strikes people out?
Man, I think the team that doesn't strike out.
Okay.
I think the team that is a pest, a team that's going to make you have that a bat like Vlad had last night against Wu. 9 pitches, right? Miss a pitch and make one mistake, I'll hurt you. But I think the team that puts the ball in play puts a lot of pressure on that opposing manager to get to that bullpen. And when you look at the Dodgers bullpen, it's one of those bullpens that if you have a question mark about them winning, it's that.
Okay.
And they're going to be tested, Matty. I think this is a completely different matchup than last year's World Series. I think a lot of the talk with the Yankees was they're one-dimensional. If Judge isn't hitting homers, there's not really much happening after that. Toronto is the complete opposite, in my opinion. These guys are going to challenge you to play the game. The Dodgers have shown they can play the game. We saw the wheel play they ran. Mookie's turning double plays left and right at shortstop. So this, to me, is going to really test the Dodgers from a baseball end. They're going to be tested. Like you said earlier, Cliff, I think Milwaukee got a little bit off their game. They got intimidated by the Dodgers. Yeah. If Toronto can stick to their game plan and really try and work these starters and get into that bullpen, it could be an interesting series.
So if I'm hearing what you're saying, especially Haas, I mean, the Dodgers are overwhelming favorites in this series, right? In the markets, they're plus $1.08 or minus $1.80. Everybody thinks that the Dodgers are going to steamroll Toronto. You're saying Toronto could give them a hard time here. This could be interesting.
I think Toronto has a shot, especially offensively. You know, don't get me wrong, Blake Snell, Yamamoto, the way these guys are throwing the ball, they're on top of their game right now. But I think Toronto is going to be able to try and get them off their rhythm, play some small ball. I mean, if you look at Blake Snell's his outing so far in the postseason, I mean, he is just cool, calm, and collective out there. So I think they're going to try and throw him off his game a little bit.
They've been awesome. You know, they've been awesome, but Matty, you can't get spooked by what you saw, you know, from the Dodgers, you know, against the Milwaukee. You just can't. It can't happen. I think you have to understand that your team and what you figured out on the fly with guys that's been inserted, you know, into that offense for the Jays they're real, right? They've gotten a chance to live, you know, through 7 games of up and down, you know, and doing all these things. And now I just feel like you got to stay true, and you're fresh, and you're ready to go. The Dodgers, they had a little time off.
Yeah, we'll talk about that 7th game. As a matter of fact, you guys are off to Studio 42 to break down. Toronto's ecstasy is Seattle's agony. And this from Ann Rogers of MLB.com when she visited with Eduardo Bizzardo, who gave up that homer. The sinker was supposed to stay inside, but got a little bit down, and I think he connected the ball right there, according to Bizzardo. I threw my best sinker, he said. He just got me today with the same sinker that I threw yesterday. He made a ground ball yesterday, and he got a homer today. Mariners manager Dan Wilson on the decisions that led to Bizzardo entering the game.
Brian was throwing the ball so well. You know, first of all, George, I thought, threw the ball excellent, and then Brian picked up right where George left off, and you know, gave us a good spot to be in, and you know, after the walk, you know, hoping to get the ground ball, which we did, but it just found a hole, and then you know, knew Jimenez was going to bunt there, and you know, Bizzardo's been the guy that's gotten us through those situations, those tight ones, especially in the pivot role, and you know, that's where we were going at that point. And it's a tough decision. You don't want to, you know, put that go-ahead run at first, and then that also introduces Vladdy into the equation if you don't get the double play. So, you know, again, the way we looked at it was, you know, we were going to go at George.
Hey, Haas, let's get into this big at bat last night with George String, probably the biggest, you know, of the year for this whole Blue Jays team. And when you think about the situation, it's always that executive decision for the manager, talking about Dan